Today we're making chocolate stout cake. Much like coffee, a stout beer, such as Guinness, works really well with chocolate when you're baking. You won't taste the beer and the alcohol will bake off as you're cooking, but it brings out the chocolate's flavors and it makes for an extra rich but not overly sweet cake. So, find yourself a Guinness or your favorite stout, get some chocolate, and let's get baking. Our cake prep will start at the stove. I've got the oven preheating to 350 degrees and 2 sticks or 8 ounces, 230 grams of unsalted butter in a pot. We are going to add to that 1 cup of the stout of your choice. I'm going with Guinness, but use whatever you like. And we are going to heat this butter and stout over medium until the butter melts, and then the mixture just starts to come to not even a full boil, just up to a bare simmer. That will be plenty of heat for us, so we'll be checking back with that in a moment. Our butter has completely melted into the stout, and the mixture is just beginning to simmer, so that means it's time to take it off the heat and get to work with our other ingredients. So we've got our hot Guinness butter mixture here. I've set it on the scale so I can measure in my cocoa powder. We are going for 3/4 of a cup of cocoa powder, and see, that comes to 63 grams altogether. And I forgot to, when I zeroed my scale, I had the whisk out and then set it back in. So lifting that whisk out to make sure I get my measurement correct by weight. No need to sift this cocoa powder, but it is important that it goes right into this hot mixture. And the reason for that, a little bit too much, but you know what, we're gonna roll with it. All right, and the reason that we put the cocoa powder right in with this hot stout butter mixture is that we are blooming the chocolate. And kind of like brewing coffee, when you expose chocolate to heat, particularly to hot liquid, before or during the course of mixing together your ingredients for cake or brownies or something like that, you really bring out more of the chocolatey flavors in chocolate. So there we go. We're gonna set all of that aside to cool just a touch more while we mix the rest of our ingredients together. All right, this time I'm gonna properly zero my scale. I'm going to put my dry ingredients into a large bowl, or in this case, measuring cup. And I'm starting with the 2 cups of flour, that's 250 grams, all-purpose flour. It's already measured into the bowl. To this, we will add granulated sugar, 2 cups, that's 400 grams. I'm just gonna pour instead. Come on. Might feel like a lot of sugar, but remember that cocoa powder is not sweet, and Guinness is fairly bitter as well. So trust me, this won't be a terribly sweet cake when we're done. All right, to this we are adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt, like so. 1 teaspoon of baking soda and 1 teaspoon of baking powder. And by using soda and powder to leaven this cake, we are making making this work whether you have natural cocoa powder or Dutch processed cocoa powder. So I like to use Hershey's Special Dark, not a sponsor, it's just my favorite cocoa powder, which is a Dutch processed cocoa powder. Honestly, whatever you have will work for this cake because it has both of those types of leaveners. I will put a note in the recipe below with an explanation of why that can matter and what to do if you only want to use baking powder or baking soda, etc. All right, we're just mixing this together. We do always want to make sure that those leaveners, whether it's baking powder or baking soda, get mixed thoroughly into our cake, brownies, cookies, whatever we're making, so that we don't have an uneven rise or not so tasty pockets of unmixed baking powder or baking soda. All right, that's us in pretty good shape. I'm gonna get the scale out of the way and add in our liquid ingredients. Before I do that, let me make a quick mention of the pan. I'm using a Bundt pan here. We'll see the total volume in cups in this of batter, and I'll make a note of that. You could definitely use a Bundt pan. Bundt pans vary in size. This is a 10 cup Bundt pan. Some are 12 cup, which are a bit bigger. We never want to fill those too far up. If you're filling your Bundt pan almost to the top, you are going to have an oven disaster on your hands. That said, you can definitely make this as a sheet cake, in loaves, make it as cupcakes. I will, in round layers, I will put some notes below as well about different pan sizes. But if you do use a Bundt cake pan, butter it really thoroughly. Butter it, spray it, butter it again. Things do tend to stick in those if we're not careful. All right, back to the rest of our ingredients. So take this fork out of here, and we're going to add in our liquid ingredients. We have 2 eggs. We're just gonna add these directly to the dry mixture. Clean off the hands. Add in sour cream. It's 3/4 cup of sour cream. And if you find that you were just a little bit short, but you have some plain yogurt on hand, plain yogurt works as well, either to supplement your not quite enough sour cream or just instead of sour cream. That's a real common recipe swap. So if you have one on hand but not the other, no worries. And we are also going to add right into that our still warm butter Guinness cocoa mixture. We're just going to pour that right in as well. Make sure you get everything from the bottom of the pan, or as much of everything as you can. But whatever you do, don't be tempted to like lick the edge of the pan or something like that to take a taste of that, because as good as it looks, it is not tasty until it's sweetened. Trust me. I know from literally bitter experience. All right, and we are just going to mix everything together until there are no dry patches of anything. And that will be our sign that our cake batter is ready for the pan. All right. So quick check around the edges and underneath, and it looks like we've got all of our dry ingredients thoroughly incorporated into the batter. So now it is time to get this into its pan. And just, if we're keeping score here, we have just about 6 cups of batter, which is the right amount for my 10 cup Bundt pan. We do not want, once again, to fill that all the way to the brim, unless you want to spend the rest of your day cleaning your oven. If you do think you have a pan, whether it's a pan of a Bundt pan or a sheet of tray of cupcakes or what have you that you think might overflow in the oven, it never hurts to set it on a cookie sheet. And especially with pans like these that are a little bit tricky to hold at the edges, it can just be nice to use that cookie sheet in order to make it easier to get in and out of the oven without spilling or having your cake fall or something like that. All right, get every last bit out of there. And I'm going to be baking this for somewhere in the neighborhood of 35 minutes. I'll give it a test with a toothpick a little bit before the 35-minute mark. Again, that's going to depend on your pan shape and size. I'll put some notes below about suggested baking times for different sizes and shapes of pans. All right, we will see this when it's out of the oven. Our cake is out of the oven. Mine took a bit over 35 minutes, definitely closer to 40, but just keep an eye on it. And my new Bundt pan worked beautifully. If you can see here, there are no chunks of cake missing. In fact, it's so pretty. We could just sprinkle some powdered sugar on this and call it a day. But I am going to gild the proverbial lily. We're going to make a really simple ganache here. So I have a quarter of a cup of heavy cream, to which I will add 113 grams or 4 ounces of dark chocolate. I could chop chocolate for this, that'd be great, but I hate chopping chocolate, so we're using chocolate chips. So we'll get a little crinkly here. Add our chips. A few more. And that looks pretty good. And we could heat this over a double boiler, but once again, not my favorite thing. You can do it absolutely, but you know what else works? The microwave, low and slow and stirring in between. So I will be back when we've got this melted. And friends, that's all ganache is basically equal parts heavy cream and chocolate. If you wanted, you could further gild this lily and use some Irish cream in here. That would be delicious if you want to go for it. All right, back with some melted chocolate. And here we are, about a minute on low in my microwave. Microwaves do vary. And it won't look like your chocolate and cream are all the way integrated. Just stop it every little while and give it a stir. And as soon as that chocolate starts to melt into the cream, your ganache is basically done. It'll be fairly runny. You can let it sit for a while to set up and cool a touch, or you can pour it right onto your cake. If you are maybe doing this with cupcakes or something, I would say let it sit a little while because you aren't wanting it to run down the side of the cupcakes probably, but we actually do want this to run down the side of our Bundt cake. So we're just gonna pour this right on, like so. And if you let it go too long, it'll get a little bit grainy. All right, so there are some hacks for correcting for that, but it's a lot better to just not let it happen. So I almost verged on the edge of too long here myself, but I think we'll make it just fine. All right, and if you want, say your ganache did get grainy or your pouring skills are, about as good as mine, you can always sprinkle this with a little bit of sifted powdered sugar once your ganache is fully cooled and hardened. So Choice is up to you. All right, I'm just gonna assist that a little bit in a few spots and let it drape there. And I forgot to do it, but a nice trick with cake, if you want to make sure it doesn't slide around on the pan, or on the plate or platter, especially if you're planning to transport it somewhere, you can put a dollop of frosting, or in this case ganache, underneath your cake before you ice or glaze the rest of it, and that will hold it in place when you move the platter around. All right, so ta-da, here it is. One chocolate stout cake, perfect for a St. Patrick's Day party or just a fun Saturday night. We hope you give this a try and you check back every Friday at 4 o'clock for a new recipe.